So I have in my hands a few of the UniFi devices that they offer right now in 2018, because the question comes up all the time, which UniFi should I buy? Well, let's talk about that. I don't have everything in stock. I don't have any of the in-wall units in stock to show you those, but we're going to jump to the website in a minute here and talk about some of the details. But we're going to go over what I have here and kind of get you an idea of which ones to buy, what they look like. Now, I have the UniFi AC Mesh. I have the UniFi uap-ac-lite and the UniFi AC-HD. This is their pro business line. And you're probably going, which one do I need to put in my house, or which one do I need to put in my business? Which one do I need to put in my office? There's a lot of different options here, and that's what we're going to kind of discuss, is which UniFi is right for the job. Now, I've talked about this before, but the video is old, and UniFi is a very forward-thinking company, and they just keep coming out with new, amazing products. Now, my favorite thing is, yes, they still support. We still have stuff from 2013 that's still getting firmware updates. There's not a lot of companies that support things for that long. I've been really impressed with the long-term support that they've offered on these without charging you for contracts. That's something unique about the way UniFi works as a company. They give you the software for free, so you can manage it. You can host with them. They have their cloud management systems you can do. You can get the controller and host it all yourself, which is what we do, which is my preferred method. You can host it at your home and just run it when you want to. Now, the nice thing is, all this UniFi equipment that we have here all runs on the same UniFi software. Same software runs all of them, and the same software can run all of them at the same time. So you can easily migrate, go, I think I needed this, but then I added this, but then I had like 500 users, so I needed this. You didn't have to change software. Matter of fact, you don't have to change devices. They will work with this one as well. So you can have an office or your even house laid out with a lot of different UniFi devices, one management platform for all of them, which is one of the reasons we really like UniFi as well. It unifies all the management of these Wi-Fi devices. And I want to answer a question a lot of you are asking right away, because this is a common question with UniFi is, but I just want to work it at my house. What if I turn my controller off? What if I don't want to buy a cloud key or any of that? Once you program these, they are smart enough to keep operating and hand out Wi-Fi to devices and work. The things you lose when you don't run a UniFi controller consistently is not the functionality of the device, but any type of telemetry for the device. Device is smart enough to do its job, not smart enough to really give any telemetry. It doesn't have storage in these. That's part of the concept of the way they built these. They did not put a ton of storage in these to do the device. They take all the data and pump it to the controller. But in the event that the controller is not functioning, or you turn it off because you're rebooting it for any reason, and for example, we take our controller down to do upgrades, the UniFis keep working fine. They keep handing out IP addresses. There's just a gap in any data or analytics that you may be getting from these. UniFi is very unique in the way they design this, at least what I've seen. Maybe there's other companies copying them, but they've done this for a while, and it's a really smart way to design the devices. It makes the devices less expensive, and from a business standpoint, because these are generally less expensive than some of their commercial counterparts, we keep plenty of them in stock based on what we installed at our clients. So we always have a few at the ready on the chance that one of them goes bad or there's a problem with them. The devices are inexpensive. We can pre-program them, match them to their network, and just swap out the ones there. That being said, we have deployed thousands of these, and rarely, matter of fact, we've only ever had a brick go bad. I am still amazed at the statistics for how many of these we've taken out and how few of them are dead, which for us is none. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I've seen people say they died. So let's jump into talking about which devices are right for you. These are really slick. These are the AP-AC mesh. And I was confused when they first came out with them, like, do they only do mesh? No, they have a mesh mode. Matter of fact, all three of these devices in front of you have a mesh mode. And all that means is they will support meshing Wi-Fi. And if you're not familiar with what that is, you can spend a few minutes Googling it, but the short of it is you can power this unit up, and when it's already been programmed, first when it is hardwired, and then you want to switch it to mesh mode, it can grab the 5 gigahertz signal off of one of these and bring it in and then broadcast out 2.4 and give Wi-Fi. So it meshes on the 5, broadcasts on the 2.4. This is good and bad, in my opinion. Whenever we can, we put a wire to the switch for every single UniFi device. That's the preferred way to do it. You're going to get the best performance. Once you start hopping across meshes, you are going to lose a little bit of performance. That's just the nature of it. We are going to do a mesh video coming soon, so I'm not going to get too in-depth on that. But we've done some testing with it. We have a scenario where we're going to be meshing them, and we're going to do a whole project video on that later. But these APAC meshes, they are great. They work really well. If they're small, they're weatherproof. That's an important factor. So we've even put these in. Some people wanted, they have a pool house, and we're putting these in by the pool. We have a golf course that we installed a couple of these on now, and golfers want Wi-Fi. Apparently that's necessary when you're out there. But they are weatherproof. They come with this. They come with a little, I'm going to move the stuff right I got back here. Sorry for the noise. They come with a couple mounting brackets, so you can mount them pretty easily. They come with a little rubber grommet that goes in here. And my favorite thing compared to the old versions that we've used of these, this. And why does this matter, you wonder? Well, maybe we have climbed up a large pole to put these on, and maybe you slid this off, and maybe it fell, and maybe you had to climb back down and up the pole. This saves you from that. And all it really is a little piece of plastic, so when you pull this out before you snap the network in, it keeps it from falling all the way back down to the ground. So you snap this in, you put the little rubber grommet in. They all come with some drywall screws, so you can mount them. And then you mount this bracket, and then just clip in. Oops, I'll show it like this. I'm being clumsy. There we go. So you mount the bracket. This clips in. Now it's mounted. There's a little button you press down on this little piece of plastic that unlocks it, and away you go. Really simple design. Really easy to go up and mount these, and then just snap these on, and you put the little rubber grommet in here, and you run your network cable through the rubber grommet. Clip it together, and away you go. You're all set to run these outside, and you can put these, wherever works for you. And like I said, these are really nice little units. They have they have a little bit higher version, like some website. We'll talk about these, but this is the smaller ones, and they work really well. Now, these are the real common ones you recommend for people in their homes. These have an MSRP of around $109. We've caught them on sale for less many times. These are the uap-ac-LRs. Really nice, simple devices. Now, just to give you a direct comparison, they're not as big as these HDs, so they're reasonable. They do set a little bit taller of a profile, not much, but they're reasonably compact. They all have the same little mounting bracket on them. These ones are the uap-ac-LRs, where you take this, you can stick this to the ceiling, and bracket it down. Now the holes in it, hard to see because I don't have my close-up camera, but they're slightly recessed, so you can put a couple screws in here, bolt it to any type of ceiling. It comes with drywall screws as well. And what these drywall screws allow you to do is bolt it right to the ceiling, put the bracket on there, and you just push it, twist, lock, done, and they're stuck to the ceiling. Now, in the case that you have a drop ceiling, which is really, really common in offices here in the U.S., and I imagine a lot of other places as well, and if you're not familiar with like the drop ceiling tiles, we have one here. They come with these brackets and these long screws. Now, what these brackets and long screws do is this plate sits on the other side, because if you were just to screw into the drop ceiling tiles, they're not strong enough to hold it. Well, they kind of are, but don't do it because it's a bad idea. These come with nuts and long screws. You put this on top of the tile, you bracket on the other side, and it lines right up. So you sandwich it together like so, and that's going to give you the mount to be really solid and stay in a ceiling tile. That being said, the ceiling tile mounts are really fine for these. They don't weigh that much, so we haven't seen any issues with them. But anytime you deal with ceiling tiles, just so you know, be careful, especially if you're dealing with really old ones, or some of them are made of like a fiberglass-like fabric. So before you do the jobs or look at it, make sure they can support that type of device being on there. That's just something to think about whenever you're putting these Wi-Fis in, especially when we get to the last one here, the AC-HD. Now this is a lot heavier, and so if you have this in a ceiling tile and that ceiling tile is not strong enough, you want to think about that, or put it closer, not in the dead center of the ceiling tile, maybe offset where there's a little more support on the corners, or have it in a plastic ceiling tile. Some of the places I've seen have those where they're a lot more solid and can handle more weight, but that's something to consider when you're doing these, is making sure it's solid mount, because this weighs a lot more. The weight's on there, does it tell you exactly? I'll look it up in the specs, but you can find it on there. So these are a little bit heavier. Now the brackets are not the same on this, being that it's bigger, so it just has a bigger bracket compared to the smaller bracket of this one. Now there's a couple different AC-HD models, and we'll talk about those in a couple of these, but the brackets on this line, the smaller one, are the same, and the brackets on the larger one are pretty much the same, but every one of these is going to come with a bracket. So no matter which one you buy, you get the bracket with it. That's just part of what's included in there. And of course, with the bracket, you get the heavier duty mounting plate. So, it's pretty solid. All right, now the power bricks. Pretty straightforward. They're going to come with a power brick on there. And something I like, these are the new versions of the UniFi power bricks. The very original when we were doing these years ago didn't have this. As a matter of fact, the old ones are black and now the newest ones are white. They have this. And all this is a little mounting plate, so you can screw this to the wall real easy. You don't have to use a template or anything. It's not like those little offset screws, which always drive me nuts. But snap. And this can mount right to your wall, and you have, it's a short cord, but generally you're putting this somewhere, you know, right where a plug is. And we a lot of times will put all the devices, if we're putting a few of them in, we'll put them on, if they don't have a PoE switch, we'll put them on just one power strip. And then we put a note above it. This will reset the UniFi devices for people who ever have to reset them. It's a handy tip if you're installing a lot of small businesses where you put like 2 or 3 units in, they don't have a PoE switch, we just put a little note above it. This will reset the Wi-Fi if there's ever a reason to. That way you can just tell them to power it off, power it back on, and they're all plugged into one. Now this is a 24 volt for this unit here, and this is the bigger 48 volt brick. Now that's something you really have to keep in mind when you're doing these, is when you're mounting the brackets, whoops, I got the wrong piece there. When you're doing these, the different bricks go to different units. So you have a 24 or 48 volt unit. You can look that up before you buy them. Each one comes with these unless you're buying the bulk packs. I've seen some of the bulk when you buy like 5 at a time of these, like some of the quantity purchases, read the fine notes that they may not have this. Now we're fine with buying the bulk packs when they don't, because a lot of times when we buy in bulk, we're buying a lot of them at once and for a large install. And in that case, we're going to put a PoE switch in. Now UniFi has, and I'll find a link and leave it in the description below, and you can Google it because they keep a nice up-to-date one. They have which PoE switches support which devices from UniFi. Whether or not your PoE switch supports it, well, you're just going to have to look, because each one of these does have the specs on there in terms of the power needs of each one and which power over Ethernet they need. So that's a very important aspect for each device you're looking at. Like I said, they all come with different power. They all come with a power brick, and the UniFi AC-HD does need the larger one, but it comes with it. But just think about that when you're doing your planning. You also have to do planning on wattage. If you may know, when you're looking at PoE switches, and UniFi has those on there as well, if you're going to put a bunch of these in one switch, think about how many watts, and it's listed for each one of these that you're using, and making sure you plan accordingly that you have enough power to support all the devices that you're going to hook up. And one thing I missed because it was on top of it is this has a different type of bracket as well. So you have a pole mount bracket or an outside flush mount bracket. The flush mount bracket has a cool little level in it, so you can decide if it's level so it looks right when it's on the wall. Not that that makes a huge difference on there, but yeah, these are really neat. We're really happy with these devices in terms of how they work. Like I said, we got a video coming up on the details and review of these. All right, now let's jump over to the website so we can talk about some of those specs and details that really matter with these, so you can really finally make a decision on which one you want. And we'll talk about the MSRP pricing on these, so see what fits your budget and use case scenario. All right, we'll start with the first thing that I said is, yes, they all work on the same system. And for example, this is our LTS test site that we have, and you can see that all these are in here. And yes, one of them does say in Marvin's car, because that was part of a video we have up and coming. So it's a sneak peek in that we were meshing cars together, what's going to be for our mesh video. But here's an ACLR, here's the AC mesh, here's another AC mesh, here's an AC mesh that's not plugged in right now. It's actually in someone else's car, even though it says in the office. And here's the super cool Wi-Fi, which is the uap-ac-HD. And like I said, one dashboard for all the devices. This is the beauty of UniFi. When you want to expand on here, you don't have to get a different controller for each one, or even different controller software to manage an enterprise device or a home device. And I say home device, but technically they're all enterprise devices. But a lot of people like these ACs and ACLRs at their houses. I have one. I think it's a great device. All right, so let's jump into the details of the different devices and the technical specs that I know people are wanting. So we'll start with the HD. Now they do have a new one coming out called the Nano HD, and I'm going to pause here for a second to talk about it, even though it's not completely released. It's a slightly smaller, little bit less in performance. It supports 200 concurrent users versus the AC Pro, which supports 500. But it's skinnable. That's neat. And you could blend it in with the environment. It comes in camouflage that you may want if you have a camouflaged UniFi unit. You probably want to hit a hidden SSID in there. I'm just saying, it seems the only appropriate way. It's my humor since I've seen that. But it's also kind of neat because it's going to come out with a recessed mount. And like I said, these aren't out yet. I don't have any. I think some people may have gotten some for some reviews, but kind of novel because you can recess mount them instead of mounting them like the other ones do, which is more like this picture here. Pretty cool, pretty neat, a little bit smaller. That being said, if you're interested in that one. Now let's talk about like the ones we have here, the AC-HD. This is the one we talked about. I didn't bother taking it apart because the Unifis are a little bit difficult to take apart, and I don't want to void the warranty because they're expensive. But the Unifis, this is the exploded view, so you can see inside of them. This is the one that we have here. It does have the dual NICs. Now, the reason it has dual network interfaces is for link aggregation. So you can only get gigabit on these. They don't have a 10 gig circuit, but you can combine two together. Now let's talk about some of the other details. They are AC, Wave 2, MU, MIMO, and you can dig into some of this. All the different performance options they have, the MU MIMO, as long as the devices themselves that are connecting support all of that. And here's some of the differences in the device. So because it supports up to that speed, 1300 megabytes a second, that's why you need link aggregation, so you can actually get that many on there. I'm sorry, yeah, with this one and this one as well, 1733 on the UAP-AC-HD, you can't get that kind of performance, obviously, with one single network cable. This one supports up to 200 users, 500 plus users on this. Now, we have some of these, and we're putting these in because they're actually going in a large event facility. We're putting 3 of them in, and picture that there's just going to be a ton of people there. And whenever there's people at event facilities, you want something that can handle, because everyone has a device, and if someone brings a tablet, let's say at a conference center, you're really going to go, okay, they're going to have a tablet, they may have a laptop, and they're going to have a phone. So one person can represent 3 devices. So you have 100 people, you could have 300 devices if each person has 3 devices. So these are really good for that really high density, lots of people connecting. And they work and solve that problem. Now, these ones here are not bad, and like I said, a little bit less money for $149, and still have a lot of those features, but not quite as many users on there. So you got to think about user density when you're buying these. Could you buy this for your house? Yes. Would it make your house faster? Do you have that many devices at your house is the question. Sure, you could just go out and buy the biggest one. Now, I didn't cover, which is the, I'm going to skip this one, but they do have an AC EDU. It's kind of novel because it's got a speaker in it. So it's got a public address in it. So I guess if you want, you could possibly use it in the office. I've never used this before, but kind of novel that it has that in there. It's the same as some of the other devices, but it's got that in there. So let's jump to the next one, the AC one. These are the ones I recommend for people in the home. So you got the AC-Lite. Dual radio performance. It's still AC. They're the smaller ones. This is great for home. This is what we've put in a lot of people's houses, especially the business owners. They frequently will want something just to get Wi-Fi in their house that works really well. Now, depending on how the size of the house and density of the walls, you may or may not want the ACLR for long range. So you get the same specs, a little bit more power, a little bit more money. They're not substantially more. So the MSRP on this, I'm going to pull it back up over here. So you go from $89 for the AC Lite, long range is here. When we get up into the AC Pros, they're $149. Now, if you look at the AC Pro, it's only slightly different than the other ones. We do the model comparison down here because when you get into the Pro, it's a little bit faster on the 5 gigahertz speed. So you're going to do that. But in order to achieve these speeds, these only have one single Ethernet. These have dual Ethernet. Once again, you're going to have a switch that supports lag integration. So get a Unify switch. There's other ones that support it, but Unify switches do. And lag integration on both of those, so you connect both network cables to be able to achieve the full output of those speed on those. So that's why you might want to buy these ones here, is if you need the fastest you can get. But the other side of that is, do you have devices that can support that level of speed? So it's not just that this device has supported. You have to have all this support and a newer model laptop with the right support in there. That's an important aspect. Just something to think about on here. And like I said as well, these are 802A3AF PoE with 24 volt, 24 volt. And they have that listed for each model, so you know the PoE mode it supports. So if you don't plan to use the power brick that comes with them, you may want to use your own PoE switch. Make sure you have the right one. Now, here's the mesh units. Now, they have a couple units in here. This is the one we have in stock, and this is the Mesh Pro. These are really cool. I'm really impressed with how tiny these are. They're $99 MSRP. You can usually find them for a few dollars less. They're weather-resistant outdoor enclosures, and they're made to be outside. Now, this is the Pro one. Also, weather-resistant, doesn't have the little antenna sticking up because it's a little bit bigger of a unit, and really good coverage range. You get a little bit more range out of those. So like I said, they're really impressive devices. Whichever one you want to use, like I said, these are a little bit more. So it depends on if you need that bigger range that you get out of the more powerful device versus the basic device. So they're both really, really good. For if you're doing something simple like we are with this one project, we just bought the $99 ones, and they really will suffice. And if you just want things like, Wi-Fi in your backyard, this is great. Put it outside. Mount it even. It's not that you got to go very far. Just getting it outside of your house means you're going to get better coverage. And by mounting it to the outside of your house, on the side of the house, running a cable to it, maybe under your eave, you'll get great outdoor coverage on this. And reaches all over the backyard. I have a larger backyard, and these actually cover the entire thing really, really well. Now, the last one is these in-wall units, and these are unique, and we have not installed any of these because we haven't had any use case for them, but we might. Hotels are kind of an ideal place for this, and I actually had one of my tech friends said he's seen them, and he said it worked great. What this does is it very centralizes the installs because it actually installs, just like the name implies, in wall. So you cut out like a standard wall port mount, and then you put the UniFi in it, and you PoE power it, and then you have these in the wall. So if you're thinking about like a hotel, for example, you have a really good way to both put a network jack on the wall and put a Wi-Fi device in the room. So this is one of the planning things when you're designing these, and I like how they show the pictures in here. With hotels, obviously, would be like a hotel layout where you say, I'll put them in a hallway, or I only want to put one here and one here, or maybe one on this end, and picture hotels being a larger area. The guy in the corner kind of doesn't get as much Wi-Fi versus the person over here. So these can also work with all the other ones and complement the Wi-Fi. So you take them and put them in the corner rooms and say, okay, I got a Wi-Fi here for the lobby that covers maybe the rooms adjacent to it, and you kind of do some planning with that. But then you can add a couple in-wall units for those hotels, or maybe the nice suites that you have where you go, I want that guest to have excellent Wi-Fi. You can put these in. Of course, this same rule applies to putting these in an office. Maybe in the boss's office, you say, I want to make sure he has great Wi-Fi in a C-suite office, and maybe you put a couple of these in there. Now, please note, they have a data jack as well. So they do have a gigabit pass-through, so when you plug these in, you're able to wire that in, which is kind of cool. So definitely a neat option to be able to do these. They are, if you get the Pro version of this, they're both gigabit, and they support the ultimate 5 gigahertz at 1300 megabits. So that gives you an idea of the use cases you may want to have for these. You can use them in your house as well. Sometimes this is something I've seen where, especially if you're in older houses, it can be tricky to figure out where to put the Wi-Fi because it's hard to get inside the walls and things like that. So that can be tricky. Something to consider that maybe you do have access to mount these in there and put them in your kitchen or whatever works. Now, UniFi does have some of the other consumer products like the Amplify, which is really nice. Those are good products. I've heard good things about them. Have not done any testing on them, so I can't give you a direct one-to-one comparison. But we have if you're somewhat technically minded and willing to go through the setup on these in loading the software to manage them, which not that hard to do. Plenty of videos on it to run on Windows, and you don't have to run it persistently. Some of these people we've seen just load it up, configure the device, and they don't care about any telemetry or data collection from the device, so they set it up and just use it as a Wi-Fi without any management. That is fine. If I stop this controller software, these devices will keep out with handing out Wi-Fi to anything that connects to them. They'll still save the password. They do not contact the controller. The only thing that you're going to miss is telemetry data, and you're going to miss any advanced features, like if you want to use it for example with a captive portal or logins and things like that, because that's functions handled by the controller, not the device. You may want a controller for that, but if you just go, you want it at my house, no problem. No, you don't even need the controller running. You can just program these and turn the controller on only when you want to, upgrade the firmware or make any changes to it or collect telemetry data. But other than that, that's kind of the idea of the UniFis and which ones you should look at. Like I said, this is April of 2018, so this is their current lineup. And I'll show you something real quick here because we have one of the really old ones. I'll switch over to our main site. So here's our UniFi, the LTS office Wi-Fi device that's been installed since around 2013, I think. I have one here and I have one at my house. They've been working forever. Even though they're older models, and yes, they only support 2.4 because they're so old, they still have firmware updates for them and they still work. So that's really, like I said, it says something about the company when they support a product for that long. All right, so hopefully this was helpful in picking out which UniFi device you might want to try at home or try in your office. Like I said, we've been really happy with the product line. We continue to deploy them at many of our clients. They've made it really easy to manage, and you can see I've got a lot of other videos on everything from setting up these UniFi devices to how you manage all the clients. Check them out. We've done so many projects with them. You can see some of the client projects and some of the larger scale stuff we've done with them. They really do hold up. So like I said, hopefully this is helpful on getting helping you pick out which Wi-Fi, UniFi Wi-Fi device you may want to buy. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and click the thumbs up. Leave us some feedback below to let us know any details, what you like and didn't like as well, because we love hearing the feedback. Or if you just want to say thanks, leave a comment. If you want to be notified of new videos as they come out, go ahead and hit the subscribe and the bell icon. That lets YouTube know that you're interested in notifications. Hopefully they send them, as we've learned with YouTube. Anyways, if you want to contract us for consulting services, you go ahead and hit lawrencesystems.com and you can reach out to us for all the projects that we can do and help you. We work with a lot of small businesses, IT companies, even some large companies, and you can farm different work out to us or just hire us as a consultant to help design your network. Also, if you want to help the channel in other ways, we have a Patreon. We have affiliate links. You'll find them in the description. You'll also find recommendations to other affiliate links and things you can sign up for on lawrencesystems.com. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.